In today's look at political parties, we're going to look at two separate things. First, the parties in government, what happens when parties win the elections and control the government, and what effect does that have on our three branches. And then we're going to look at third parties and the contributions that they make in our system. So let's start with parties in government. So in Congress, the party that has the majority in each chamber, so the House and the Senate, gets a lot of perks. First off, they get the control over each committee. Committee work is where most of the work of Congress is done. And so each committee has a majority of the party that controls the chamber, and the chairman for that party, who controls calendar and the scheduling of business for the committee, that chairman comes from the majority party. So parties are very important to the structure of our congressional system. And in the House of Representatives especially, you have the Speaker of the House who is affiliated with the majority party. And that is a big role that controls how that chamber operates and the type of business that comes out of the House of Representatives. In the executive branch, most appointments to the executive branch, and you're looking at your cabinet members, your ambassadors, and high-level government officials, those appointments typically fall along party lines. And the same can be said in the judicial branch. When you look at judges that are appointed by presidents and confirmed by the Senate, there is definitely a party connection there. Democratic presidents very consistently appoint Democratic judges, and Republican presidents do the same thing. And they have to work through the majority party in the Senate to make sure that they are getting those appointments confirmed. Now that's what happens when parties control the government, win the elections, control the government, fulfilling their goals. The third parties represent an interesting part of our system because they don't exactly win elections. They contribute in different ways. So let's first examine some types of political parties in the third party category. You have ideological, and they're about their philosophy being applied to a wide variety of issues. They sometimes care more about the ideas being brought up rather than the victories in elections. So you have some difficulty actually calling them a real political party since they're not always geared at winning the election. You have some issue-oriented parties. That goes back like there was a prohibition party. Their main goal was to get prohibition passed into our Constitution. Then you have parties that are centered around your strong personalities. The Bull Moose Party of Teddy Roosevelt comes to mind. Or in the 1990s, Ross Perot forming the Reform Party, based solely on his personality and his billions of dollars that could bankroll it. Now, I'd said before that third parties don't typically win elections. So what do they contribute? Well, the first thing they do is they raise issues. And these are also often issues that are not championed by the major parties, but later begrudgingly embraced by them. You have the Populist Party, were the ones that pushed the direct election of senators, which eventually became part of our Constitution. The Populist Party pushed the income tax, which again eventually became part of our Constitution. So they raise these issues that aren't necessarily lost causes, but causes that have not yet been won. They also give a voice to people on the fringe of society. Not everyone fits into the Democratic and Republican party structure, and this gives people who are not really buying into the two major parties a voice. And while they might not always have a chance of winning elections, they are part of elections. Now, some of the effects of third parties, well, while they don't win elections, they do sometimes influence the outcome. You could ask Al Gore in 2000 how he felt about third party candidates, because it was by a razor-thin margin that Al Gore lost the presidency. And you can look in certain key states, especially like Florida, where that third-party candidacy of a Ralph Nader impacted the outcome of the election. Ross Perot's 20% of the vote total in 1992 helped to pave the way for Bill Clinton to win that election. Finally, though, there are some obstacles that third parties have to overcome. This winner-take-all system that we have in congressional districts and the Electoral College, the fact that we don't do things proportionally. If you win a district, you win the seat. If you get the most votes, you get the seat. That's in contrast to Europe, where they do everything by proportion. So if a party like the Green Party in a proportional system got 10% of the vote, they would get 10% of the seats. The other thing is they have very limited ballot access, which then in turn leads to money problems, since people aren't going to give money to candidates that can't even get on the ballot. So there are a lot of obstacles facing third parties, but they are an important part of our system.